From the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear a view from the outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on NiceRadio for A View from the Outside.
Yes, it's 7:30 at our studios here at NiceRadio, and as we say, a pleasant good morning to Brereton Horne.
Good morning to you, Justin. How are you this morning?
Nice, great, and wonderful as usual.
Excellent. What's the weather like in St. Vincent?
Oh, it's fine, it's fine. I did make a check about 5-10 minutes ago, and I know it's not going to change that much. It's pretty warm and dry.
All right, warm and dry, eh? Good for you guys.
Well, of course, with the Christmas breeze around with it, huh? Yes.
Yes, I understand, but nothing in terms of the temperature that we have here. It's a sunny day, though. It's very sunny, very blue skies. But the temperature is 3 degrees Celsius, which is approximately 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So the contrast is there.
All right. Yeah, as well as we know, every week we chit-chat a little on some stuff, especially on the international scene. Yes. This morning I was paying a little attention to what's happening down in South Africa. Some leadership battle seemed to be brewing down there, and corruption seemed to be the key again. Yes,
well, I mean, historically speaking, the African countries have been rife. With corruption has been rife, I should say, in those countries. Mm-hmm. And we know that the current president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, has been brought up several times as far as corruption charges are concerned. Mm-hmm. He has escaped on all of the occasions, but we wait to see what happens. And we also wait to see what happens with respect to the leadership issue, as you said, that there's this battle.
Right, and the Brexit battle also continues.
It does, and I keep saying, every time we speak, I keep saying, watch this space. Mm-hmm. I mean, the British government, Theresa May, has had a severe knockback in Parliament earlier this week. Yeah. When MPs, her own MPs, voted against her government, and so that is a setback. But she seems to every time limp along after one defeat. So let's see what happens. The New Year may throw up something. Let's see.
She's probably a tough lady. Maybe a Margaret Thatcher. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's stretching it. I think a lot of people will tell you that's stretching it.
Okay,
but we'll wait to see what happens.
All right, man. It's over to you.
Yes, Justin. Let me say good morning to all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, all of the listeners of NiceRadio, wherever you are. It's always good to have you on a Saturday morning. On A View from the Outside this week being the 16th of December 2017, we look at unresolved issues in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, with the view being that there are simply too many unresolved issues which plague the country. And as a consequence, the people become increasingly frustrated and dissatisfied as they are kept in a web of poverty, poor health, poor infrastructure, and a multiplicity of other problems. On the 24th of December last year, that's 2016, we, on A View from the Outside, stood in solidarity with the workers at the Buckingham Bay Resort, who found themselves with the ongoing saga of not receiving payment for their wages. And they were later unceremoniously out of work. They were without employment altogether. David Ames, the person at the helm of the resort, fled the country in the face of impending prosecution for theft and tax evasion offenses. For months, the workers remained unpaid. They staged several protests to get their wages. The regime and its agents told the workers to return to work and that they will be paid. The current Minister of Finance even told them at the time that he spoke to Dave Ames on the phone in an effort to convince them that they will be paid for for their work. However, within a few weeks of him saying that, the resort was closed altogether. Dave Ames, who we were told is a man who knows how to strike when the iron is hot, failed several times to answer to his bail to appear in court in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it seems that the regime is doing little or nothing to secure his return to stand trial. After all this time, the workers still await their unpaid wages. That is, despite the numerous promises by those in authority to have the matter resolved expeditiously. We, on a view from the outside, continue to stand in solidarity with the disenfranchised workers of the Bukama Bay Resort. It is worth mentioning here that the workers of the company Drew C, who were made redundant in 2011, which is over 6 years now, still remain unpaid up to this day. The company has since reopened under new management, but those who were made redundant still battle for payment, which is rightfully and legally theirs. There is the unresolved issue of businessman Leon Samuel, better known as Bigger Biggs. He was lynched by the regime and its agents. Bigger Biggs' multi-million-dollar sand mining business at Rabaka was unceremoniously shut down and put out of business simply because he's perceived not to support the regime. He has, that's Bigger Biggs, has described times when he was rendered penniless as a result of the closure. We know that the regime has since resiled from its position on Bigger Biggs' business. However, millions of dollars worth of equipment are being rendered and continue to be rendered completely useless and lying in ruins at the site at Rabaka. In the meantime, Bigger Biggs remains without any compensation for such colossal financial loss, which many say continues to be political victimization of the most heinous kind. The former head teacher Otto Sands' case still remains unresolved also. The regime deemed him to have stepped out of line when he dared to exercise a modicum of independence of thought when he criticized them. He was transferred and subsequently sacked. He took the regime to court, and the court ruled that the transfer was, among other things, illegal and irrational, and that the dismissal was unlawful and wrong. Despite this court ruling in 2016 that Otto Sam must be compensated for his financial loss, the regime continues to defy the court and frustrate the process, and Otto Sam still remains fully compensated. There's the property of the former government minister Marcus de Freitas, which was compulsorily acquired by the regime. And despite court rulings to duly compensate the former government minister, Marcus de Freitas, for his property, many years have rolled over, and yet he remains uncompensated. There is also the former commissioner of police, Randolph Toussaint, whose land was taken away from him, and he had to go all the way to the Privy Council to get a ruling in his favor. Despite that, however, he still remains uncompensated for his land. There are many more human stories pertaining to unresolved issues under the regime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, space and time do not permit us to mention all of them here. As a result of that, we, on A View from the Outside, ask you to stand in solidarity with all of those who you remember have their own unresolved issues. Empathize with them, we ask you to. We ask you to stand in solidarity with them, because you must always remember that today it is them, but tomorrow it could be you or your loved ones. In addition to all of the unresolved issues pertaining to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there are many infrastructural projects which remain unresolved too. Vincentians must always remember the once vaunted and much talked about cross-country road, a road which has amounted to naught. Has anyone noticed that there is no mention of that project today? Well, laughably, the regime has been said to have commenced construction at opposite ends of the project. That is, the beginning and the end, without any knowledge of where the middle was meant to be. Suffice it to say that many years have rolled over since that project commenced, and there has been no mention of it ever since. The cross-country road will forever be etched on the minds of Vincentians as a project of monumental waste and thoughtlessness by any regime. There is also the medical facility at Georgetown. This is also referred to as a medical diagnostic center. That project has been touted as the panacea of kidney diseases in the country, and a place where kidney sufferers will be able to get affordable dialysis care. Well, construction on that project started well over a decade ago, and since then, scores of Vincentians have succumbed to kidney diseases and have passed away simply because they couldn't afford the cost of dialysis treatment. Despite that, up to now, there has been no definite completion date of the diagnostic medical facility, and that facility remains an illusion. And that is so after in excess of $20 million being spent and no accountability. Who remembers the promise to build a tunnel on the Cane Garden? Well, that too remains one of the unresolved issues, because there has been very little or no mention of it lately. Yes, Vincentians, the regime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines seems to have unresolved issues with the living as well as the dead. The spirits of the dead may well be wandering about the country, looking for a place of rest. When the graves fell prey to erosion and landslides caused by heavy rains and government's failure at overall maintenance to secure a cemetery. Some graves at the London Cemetery in Sandy Bay were exposed in November 2016. That is over a year now. After many months of inaction by the regime, it took an outcry on social media, started by a doctor who highlighted the potential health catastrophe waiting to happen before there appeared to have been any discussion on the issue. To date, though, that issue still remains one of the unresolved issues in the country. Any discussion on the current unresolved issues in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be grossly incomplete without mention of the elections or the election petitions which are are before the courts. It is alleged that the regime stole the last elections held on December 9, 2015, and as a result, they are said to be illegally occupying the seat of government. Election petitions which were lodged in the courts soon after those elections of December 9th, 2015, still remain unresolved. Many believe that the entire process has been frustrated by the regime in an effort to extend their government. The ruling of the latest court appearance on the 11th and 12th of December 2017, just earlier this week, is eagerly anticipated by every Vincentian. When that ruling does come in the new year, 2018, many Vincentians will be wishing for a truly new start. Until then, let us all continue to remind the regime of the many unresolved issues in the country. And let us continue to demand accountability from them. And in the process, let us bear in mind the words of author and psychiatrist Joyce Vessel, who said, and I quote, "An unresolved issue will be like a cancer with the potential to spread into other areas," unquote. Until next week, Justin, this is Brereton Horne with a view from the outside, and we use this opportunity to thank all those who have been contributing and sending feedback to us and ask them to continue to do so. And to do so at aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. That's aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com.
Yes, thank you.
To you and all the listeners, have a pleasant Saturday.
Yeah.
Have an excellent Sunday. And a beautiful week ahead, hopefully to get some issues resolved.
Great. And